so RJ is asking, so I could use an ATM strategy for trade 1 and use BloodHound for an exit on T2. Well, okay, I guess let me address this as I see it. So using an ATM strategy for trade 1, well, BlackBird does not use ATM strategies like Raven does. So RJ, it sounds like you're mixing and matching Raven and BlackBird. That's kind of my guess. Let's see, and then you want to use BloodHound to exit as an exit for trade 2. So yes, that would be possible. So I guess let's kind of cover that. So let's make up an OCO order set. Alright, so alright, let's just set up a market order here, and we'll do a 10 tick profit, and I'll just grab a stop loss, right, just to make something up. Okay, so here, this would be, I guess, order set 1, and then we'll create an order set 2. And let's say order set 2 is our runner, right? That's our runner. And so the only way to stop the runner is for the stop loss to get taken out. Of course, actually, let's back up here. Let's make this a trailing. Right? That'd make more sense if this was a trailing stop loss. So there we go. So we got 2 trailing stop losses. So for a runner, the only way to take the runner out is for our stop loss to get hit. But another option would be to use a BloodHound exit signal as well. And to do that, we'll have to go into trailing actions here. And so we have the existing trailing rule here that's going to keep moving our stop loss. That's going to keep our stop loss trailing by 1.5 ATRs, right? And it's going to repeat every bar. Of course, we could have that. We could have our stop loss move every tick in profit if we wanted to, just by doing ticks in direction. But I'll just leave it there. Anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked. Okay, so getting back to RJ's question, if we wanted to use a BloodHound signal to close out order set B here, or trade 2, then we could use a triggering event. And remember, so BloodHound signals would be a triggering event. So we could put a BloodHound signal on there, and we'd go load. So we'd have to load our BloodHound template. And let's see if I have something as an example here. And let's just try this test, this crossover test. And let's see, no, I don't have anything here. Let me try another one here. Yeah, on this machine I really don't have anything. Well, let's try last week's BloodHound file. Let's see, no, nothing there. Well, okay, I'll just use this near the day's previous high-low, so that's from last week's BloodHound. And let's just say that this also happens to be our exit signal, just for an example's sake. Um, you know, so we'll load that up, and let's see, we want, so here's the logic template. So let's, so we'd go select our logic template that would be our exit condition, right, to close out trade 2, or close out order set 2, or in our case order set B. Alright, so you load your BloodHound template, and then load your logic template, and then the second part here is the signal trigger mode. So there's lots of different combinations here, and so you're going to either use the signal in the same direction or the opposite direction. So a signal in the same direction. So let's say BlackBird is in a long trade. Well, if BloodHound gives you a long output as the signal to close the long trade, then that's a signal in the same direction, right? So BlackBird's in a long trade, and BloodHound gives you a long signal. So it's a long signal from BloodHound to close out your trade. So that's a signal in the same direction. Now, the signal in opposite direction down here. So again, if BlackBird is in a long trade, but this time BloodHound gives you a short signal, right? That's the opposite direction. So BloodHound's giving you a short signal, which is the opposite of the long trade that BlackBird is in. So you just have to, figure out what direction the exit signal is in that BloodHound is giving you, right? And choose the right option here. And then, so let's just say typically, what we teach in BloodHound is that you want opposite signals. So that's why this is the default. If you notice, the default setting here was signal in opposite direction, because that's what we teach in BloodHound. So for this example, right, the logic template near day's previous high low. So if we're in a long trade, so BlackBird is in a long position, then when this logic template gives us a short signal, that'll be the signal to exit the trade, right? So we'll leave it like that. Okay, so now we've got our BloodHound signal set up in our trigger event here. The next thing is the action, and actually we really don't have to do anything with the action, because if you see, it says right here it's going to move to the last price. So that would move our stop loss to the last price, and of course the last price is where the market is trading. So that theoretically should just get your stop hit by the last price, fairly instantaneously. So what that does is it moves your stop loss up to where the market is trading at, and that'll get your stop loss hit. And the repeat, well, of course, if you're moving your stop loss to get hit instantly, you don't have to repeat that anytime. You just need to do the action once, right, and get your stop loss hit. So you can just leave the repeat at none, and that's it. So so another name you could give this rule here is move the stop loss to market. Move it to the market price. So that would be kind of the second part of RJ's question here. Let me bring that up here. All right, so just to repeat RJ's questions here. So you got trade one set up, and you could set up trade one to kind of mimic like an ATM strategy if you wanted to. And then the real, I think, key to the question is he wants to use BloodHound as a exit for order set 2. So that's how you do that. So order set 1 or order set A, you can set this up to kind of mimic your ATM's trailing stop loss. And then order set B, you want to set that up so that it exits based on a BloodHound signal here. All right, so that's how you do that. All right, Thomas is asking, how do I engage BlackBird using a limit order? Okay. All right, let's clear this out here. All right, so when if you hit the red X, that's going to delete the whole group. Right, that'll delete the whole group. So if you hit the X, that's going to delete order set B. All right, if I hit the X again, then that's going to delete order set A. All right, so we want to start off with a limit order. All right. So we have a limit order, and so the first thing you have to decide is, how to set your limit order price. So by default, your initial placement is going to be at the closing price, right? So the bar that just closed, it's going to be that closing price. Will be, that's just some kind of a default setting here. So if you want, of course you could put an offset, so you could use the closing price plus an offset. So let's let me get my chart, make sure it's working on current data. It is see. Oh, I guess the oil contract is rolled over. So let me fix my instruments here because my chart is not moving anymore. Well, Ninja Trader is saying that, November is still the current oil contract. Yeah. Alright, well, just a moment. Let me get my chart working here. There we go. Now the timestamp looks good. And alright, there. Now it looks like my chart's working and running. Okay, so let me get BlackBird back on here. Okay, let's actually kind of start from the beginning here. So let me remove BlackBird altogether. Alright, so the question is, how do we get how do we get BlackBird? Basically, how do we engage BlackBird and using a limit order? So, step one, pull up your chart. Make sure that you're, connected to a data feed of some sort, right? And so you want to go to your strategies, right? So if your strategies is grayed out, then that means you won't be able to select it, right? Just like strategy performance, it's grayed out, that means I can't select it here. So if your strategies is grayed out, then that means your chart is not set up, or NinjaTrader is not set up for running a strategy quite yet. So there's two possibilities. Either you're not connected to a data feed, or you might have the chart trader engaged. Right, so you got to make sure that you have chart trader turned off. So no chart trader running on the chart. So actually, let me turn the chart trader back on. You notice that my strategies is grayed out now. I can't select it. That's because my chart trader is turned on. So you have to turn off your chart trader. Make sure your data feed's connected, and then I can go into my strategies. So let's pull up BlackBird here, and I want to enable it. So you always have to enable the strategy before it'll actually start running. So I guess it's call it kind of a safety feature that NinjaTrader built into their strategies. Then we can click OK. Alright, so here we go. We have BlackBird up and running now. Next step is we have to start, telling BlackBird what we want to do. So think of the order settings down here. You see the order settings button? That's what really opens up this BlackBird interface, like so. And so let's go in and set up a limit entry. And now we just have to figure out exactly what price we want to use for that limit order. So just a default is going to be the closing price here. Right, so it's set to the close price. So what that would be is, let's see, let me place a diamond here. So it would be that closing price right there. So, right, this is the bar that's building, and so, just a moment. I want to reverse my color scheme on my bars here. I'm not sure why this machine has reverse color schemes, but I need to get that straightened out. Okay, so down bars are orange, up bars are transparent. So, and price sure moves fast, doesn't it? There we go. Alright, so if we're using a limit order, right, its default is going to be the closing price, which is where my red diamond is, right? It's the closing price of the bar that just closed, right, as opposed to the bar that's still building and open, right? So the first thing you have to do is, decide, where do you want your limit order to sit at. And there's lots of different options that you can use to set that price. If you want, you could use the price, of a bar. So if you wanted, you could set your limit order at the high, high of the bar, the low of the bar, the open of the bar, the median of the bar. There's all these price points here that you could use. If you use the last price, well, basically that would be almost the same thing as using a market order. So there's prices that you could use. if you have an indicator, so maybe you have a third-party custom indicator that will tell you what your limit price should be that you should enter at. You could use a indicator value, something like that, or maybe you want to use a moving average and kind of wait for price to pull back and hit your moving average. You could do that as well. Yeah, let's kind of play around with that. Maybe if we do something like a 7, let's do a 7 period SMA. Right, see how that works out. So let's get a SMA on the chart here. Yeah, I think that'll work out for this example. All right, we have a 7 period SMA on there. So let's say we want our limit order to mimic, to be set up at this SMA 7 period. Now, of course, price may not necessarily come back and fill us on the first bar, right? But this is, what we set up is the initial placement is the SMA, and BlackBird's not going to keep moving your limit order automatically. That would be a trailing action. So if you want your limit order to keep moving as the SMA updates, then you need to set up a trailing action. Right, so we can set up a trailing action. And so let's give this a rule here, a name. So this is saying we're going to match the SMA 7. And so under the trailing, for a trailing rule, all we need to set up is an action. And our action is, again, we're going to move our limit order to the SMA 7. So I just need to go in here, adjust the period to 7, like that. So we're going to move the entry order to the SMA, and it's going to be the SMA 7 to be more specific. And then we want to repeat this. So we'll just set it to repeat indefinitely, and we'll repeat it once a bar. So we'll just update. We'll just have that limit entry order just update once per bar, like so. And if you want, you can cancel it after a certain time as well. Like, for example, let's cancel it after 5 bars, right? So if for some reason price doesn't pull back after 5 bars, then we just want to cancel it. We'll just cancel our entry order. All right, we'll just do that. And yeah, let's just focus on the entry order here. That's what the question's on. So I'll just leave the target and stop loss alone for now. Alright, let's click OK. And let's see, price is like sitting right on our price here. So let's see, we can go long. Now, of course, your limit order is going to get rounded to the nearest tick size. So you can see that the SMA was like a fraction of a tick lower than where the limit order went. So BlackBird has to round your orders off to the nearest tick size to get to place the order. And basically there we go. So let's move price down a little bit, and we'll test this one more time here. I'll close that out. We'll wait for this bar to close. I can place a short order now. And let's just I'll move price down, and we'll watch our SMA will start, our limit order will start moving down as the SMA starts moving down as well. There we go. So I'll just get price to move back up again. All right. So let's just open this back up here. Yeah, so just to kind of summarize, there you go. When you, when you're creating the order, when you're making a brand new order set, right, just select limit entry, and then you just need to decide, how and, what price you're going to set your limit entry at. So, right, and there's several different selections. You could either set it to, price data, which is basically bar price data. You could set it to an indicator value. You could set your limit order to a swing point as well, or you could use the linear regression channel as well. So, and of course this one, the one that I made for this demo, this example is a little fancier because I set up some trailing rules as well. And the only two things I had to do was, set my action up to move that limit order so that it matched the SMA 7, and then I just wanted to make sure that it kept repeating, until the order got picked up. All right, let's see. I think that does it for Thomas's question. And you can see the order just got canceled. So after the 5th bar, right, remember I set to cancel after 5 bars. So the order didn't get picked up after 5 bars and it just got canceled there. All right, just for fun, I'll put, let's see, I need to close this out here. We'll go short again just for fun. And I'm going to take a look at the board and see what other questions we have here. Yeah, Thomas is asking, can you offset by an amount and then adjust manually as needed? Absolutely. So, yeah, all right, let's do that. So, so we have our initial placement at the SMA, and let's say for a long order, we'll set the limit order below the SMA by a couple of ticks, let's say by 5 ticks, just to make sure that we get that order way out of the way by 5 ticks. If it's a long order, of course, if it's a short trade, then it's going to be above the SMA by 5 ticks. It'd be five ticks above the SMA. So that's a positive 5 ticks there for a short trade. All right. And so if you want to manually adjust your order, then we probably don't need a trailing rule. So let's delete, or let's just turn off this trailing rule here. Just set it to no movement. We'll just turn it off. All right, click OK. All right, close that order. And so if we go short, you can see my limit order is way up here. And of course I can grab that order, move it wherever I want, and move it right there and get myself picked up. There we go. And if I want to place a long, so there's a long order. So it's way down here, I can grab it and I can move it up and see if price picks me up. Like so, and yeah, looks like we're going to start going in an uptrend, so I may not get picked up. So I'll move it up one more tick. There we go. Now I got picked up. All right, so there you go. And of course, again, I set this up a little complicated. I'm using the SMA to set this up. If I wanted to keep it a little simpler, I could just go back to price, and I could just use the closing price. Well, actually, it's just to make it simpler, let's just cancel the whole thing. Let's just go back to a limit entry and go in here. And so my initial placement, I just go in here and just add a few ticks, like 10. Add a few ticks to my offset like that. So it'll take the closing price of the previous bar minus 10 ticks. So who knows, if you're trading minute bars, using the closing price may not be such a good idea. So I guess to be safe, if you want to add some safety, we could, for a long trade, we could say use the low of the bar minus 10 ticks. That should give you enough safety there to then go and move your limit order wherever you want. And then of course, if it's a long trade, if it's a short trade, it's going to use the high of the bar and add 10 ticks. So there's another option if you want to just give yourself, set that limit order way out there so it doesn't get hit right away. Give you plenty of time to grab it and move it wherever you want. So we could do something like that. So if I want to go long, alright, what did it just do? It took this price and then subtracted 10 ticks to put our limit entry way down here. Right. And if I go short, it will take the high of the bar and then add 10 ticks and place my limit order way up there. And then I could pull my limit order down. Like so. Alright, so let me just open this up again. Alright, so what I did is I just I set the long trades to use the low of the bar and then minus 10 ticks, and the short trades to use the high of the bar plus 10 ticks. So just so you just gotta figure out what prices here kind of work best for you and your trading style. Maybe you don't want to throw your limit order out too far away. If you're scalping or something, you might need to keep your limit order a little closer so you can grab it a little faster. Obviously it all depends on your trading style as to how far out you want your limit order to be placed. Alright, RJ's got a question about the ANA indicators. Are they BloodHound ready? Yes, I think 99% of them are BloodHound ready, and they are free, and I'll show you where to get them. Alright, I'll just pull this up now. Alright guys, so the ANA indicators actually come from one of our partners here. So if you go to our partners from our website, and we want to look for Lizard Trader. So here's Lizard Trader on the left. You can also get them from Futures.io as well. Anna originally posted all of his indicators up on Big Mike's when it was Big Mike's. Now it's Futures.io. But last year they opened their own website, and so now you can find them here at Lizard Trader's website. Here we can click on their banner here, and that'll take you to their website. There you go, lizardtrader.com. Okay, Frank's got a good question here. So without the use of a special indicator, is it possible to exit a trade using an offset from the daily high or low? No, it would not. That type of logic gets a little too advanced for BlackBird. Yeah, BlackBird is not designed to get into complex indicator conditions. BlackBird is really, it's geared towards the trade management side of stuff, not the logic, not the kind of like indicator condition or indicator logic kind of side of stuff. That's what BloodHound is geared towards. Yeah, let's see. So if we use an indicator-based signal, yeah, let's see. You know, the only options really, the indicator-based signals is, as the name implies, you know, if we pull down the name here, indicator-based signals, you know, as the name implies, it's really designed for indicators that have been written to just give you to just provide a simple, you know, +1 or -1 trace signal. That's really all it was designed for. It doesn't have any kind of offset capability or, you know, any kind of math capability. So yeah, that would require so to look for I guess it would be a price distance from the daily high or the daily low. You know, that kind of a price offset difference would, yeah, really require BloodHound to get into that kind of more sophisticated kind of logic. So, you know, this right here, you know, using a indicator-based signal in BlackBird, you just really have just some simple kind of conditional conditions here. You know, depending on, you know, because there's different, you know, there are different ways that a indicator could provide a trade signal. So we just kind of offered a few options here, you know, a few greater than or less than kind of options here that you could look for. You know, like for example, the reason why you might want to use a equals to is there might be some indicators that'll give you a, you know, like a +1 for one type of long trade setup, and the same indicator might give you, say, like a +2 for a different trade setup. You know, if someone was so inclined to write, you know, an advanced indicator to give you those kind of trade signals. And so, for example, if you only wanted to trade, you know, the signal number 2, then you could say, you know, you could tell BloodHound, you know, if my indicator outputs a +2, then that's the only signal I wanted to trade. You know, so for the short side, you could do something like that. And so therefore, BlackBird would only trade when your indicator outputs a +2 or a -2. You know, and it would ignore like a +1 for a trade signal. You know, but if you wanted to trade all signals, you could just simply say, do this. Any value coming out of my indicator that's greater than 0, in other words, a +1, a +2, +3, +4, you know, then BlackBird would just trade all those signals. So now we want to provide a little flexibility there. Frank is asking, so we thought that the high and low of the day would be available to BlackBird because the DOM has it. Well, the DOM is a totally different tool within NinjaTrader, and the DOM really has nothing to do with strategies. You know, the DOM is specifically geared towards just executing and moving your orders around. You know, the DOM doesn't have any kind of logic in it. Yeah, I get, you know, the DOM versus the strategies, it's really mixing kind of apples and oranges. Yeah. All right. Jeff would like to set a trailing stop to the low of the prior bar. All right. Sure. Doesn't. So yeah, if you want to set a trailing stop to the low of the prior bar, doesn't matter if you're using Uniranko, regular Rankos, range bars, minute bars, whatever. It's all going to be the same. So let's do that. So we're going to set a trailing stop loss to the low of the prior bar. All right. So let's close. I'm going to close that existing order on the board there. And let's delete that order. I'm just going to set this to a market order now. And so there's already a previous bar low high. If we want a trailing, we could use previous bar low high right there. Select that, and that should do it for you, Jeff. Let's just click OK and set this up. Okay, it looks like we're in a little bit of an uptrend, so let's go long. There's our trailing at the low of the previous bar. And I'll just put the trend up a little bit. We can watch this market go up, and we can watch the stop loss just trail the low of the previous bar. And I guess, yeah, there we go. Stop loss just moved up to the previous low. Let me get this trend up a little faster. We'll get these to move up a little faster here. Yeah, so Jeff's got a follow-up question here. If you did not select trailing, would the stop loss just stay at the low of the prior bar? Correct. Yes, right. So if I didn't select the trailing option, basically my stop loss would just stay there at a fixed, at its initial placement. Right, the stop loss would just stay at its initial placement there. All right, so let's take a look here. So when you're defining an order, the first thing you have to figure out is the initial placement, right? So you have to set your stop loss somewhere, and so that's what the initial placement is for. Now, if you want to move your stop loss, if you want to trail that stop loss, then that's what the trailing actions tab is for. Let me just delete this. So, right, so these, as they say, they're all fixed, right? So if I use the previous bar, low, high, we can see we have an initial placement at the low and the high. And if we look at the trailing actions, there is no trailing action rule here, right? Now, if I go into the trailing section and then select my previous bar, high, low, trailing there, then we can see in the trailing actions there is a trailing rule here, right? So and let's say, so this one, this quick list, it trailed just the previous bars, low and high. So let's say if you wanted to trail the low of 2 bars back, you could just set your look back period to 2, like so. That's all you have to do is set your look back period to 2. Then that'll look back 2 bars. Instead of just 1 bar back, it'll look back 2 bars. And it'll get the low price for just of 2 bars back. And then if you want it to be a trailing, we also need to go in here and adjust our action. So, right, our action is going to move the stop loss to the lower high. And you can see here the look back is set to 1, so we want to increase that to 2, like that. And now the trailing actions will do the same thing. So let's click OK, and we'll give this a go. Let's go up. And we gotta be careful, because what I just did is I placed my stop loss right there. Remember, that's 2 bars back. So that was the low of 2 bars back. Of course, my stop loss was at an invalid location. So let's just, okay, now I can go short. So now that's 2 bars back now. And I can move the trend down, and we'll just let the market price drop. And so now there's the low of 2 bars back. And so now my stop loss is trailing the low of 2 bars back. Let's get back to this. Let's do something a little more advanced here. So you notice that previously, that was my second bar back when I first started this. So let's say, but if we went 1 bar forward, it had a higher low. It had a higher high. So let's say we want to do something a little more advanced, and say we want to find the highest high of the last 2 bars, or we want to find the lowest low of the last 2 bars. Something like that. So let's go back in here, and we can make a little modification here. So let's go to the initial placement. And so we're going to look at the low for a long trade. We're going to look at the low price of the last 2 bars, and then the process look back, we're going to set that to the minimum value. So in other words, we want the minimum of the low of the last 2 low bars. So we want the minimum or the lowest low. And for the highs, we want the maximum value, or we want the highest high of the last 2 bars. Now let's go make that same adjustment to our trailing rule here. So set this one to the minimum, and short trades get set to maximum. Alright, so our trailing action is set to the same as our initial placement. Let's click OK. So if I went long, our stop loss should be right there. Because this is the lowest low of the last 2 bars. So the last 2 bars, that's the low and that's the low. But now BlackBird is finding the lowest low of the last 2 bars. So it sets it down here. Alright, now if we do a short trade, BlackBird's going to be using the highest high of the last 2 bars. So here's the 2 bars, and that would be the highest high. So that's where our stop loss would go. There's our stop loss. It gets placed up here, at the highest high of the last 2 bars. So there we go. So that's how you would set BlackBird up to use the lowest low of the last 2 bars, or the highest high of the last 2 bars. So Olga's previous question is, if you're using a limit entry, furthest price, what is that? Okay. So what Olga's talking about is, well, let's see, let's do this. Alright, so I set my entry to a limit entry, and we got a profit target and a stop loss. Now you'll notice that if we're using a trailing rule, we have let's see, furthest from price. So this is what Olga's asking about, this furthest from price. Alright, so all trailing actions have this evaluate using property here. Okay, so profit targets also have this evaluate using property, so you could say furthest from price. And in the entry orders, so with entry orders, if it's a limit, right, then the order could be sitting out there not getting picked up. So if it's a limit entry or a stop entry, then you also have this trailing actions capability here. All right, so let's set up a market. So a market, right, if you're doing a market, you get filled instantly. So obviously you can't trail a market entry because it gets filled instantly. So you'll notice that the trailing actions tab is missing when using a market order. But if I go to a stop order, now you can see the trailing actions tab pops up. It's available because the stop order may not get filled. It may take several bars to get your stop entry filled. Same thing with the limit. It could take who knows how many bars to get your stop entry filled. All right, so this is for an entry. So that's why trailing actions are available for a stop limit and stop limit, because right, those orders could be sitting out there on the market for a unknown period of time. But of course, a market order gets filled instantly, so there's no need for any kind of trailing rules for a market order. So that's right. So that's the option's not available. So yeah. So the question is, what is this furthest from price? So when you're creating trailing rules, right? Let's say I have a whole bunch of them. Well, you have to figure out which one of these has priority, because, right now I've got a whole bunch, and as far as I know, 4 of these trailing rules, they all could be, they all could have valid conditions to all try and move my order, right? So let's just say, let me just set up something simple here. So, right, that one only waits for 2 ticks. Next one waits for 3 ticks in profit. This is obviously just a very simplistic example here to make the point, right? So, so once our trade reaches 5 ticks in profit, then rule A, B, C, and D, they're all available to execute, and well, let's do another. Let's set something else up as well to make this a kind of a valid point that I'm trying to make. So let's set the repeats all to indefinite. All right, so I got rule A through D, and the repeat is all set to indefinite, right? So as soon as we get 5 ticks in profit, all 4 of these rules can, they've all had their conditions met, so that they're all trying to execute at the same time. They're all trying to move my entry order around, and they might have different actions, right? So what that would create is that we got 4 different rules here, all trying to execute, and they're all trying to move my order to someplace different. So you have to set up a priority or a hierarchy of which rule is the one that actually has the priority to move your order, right? Which one of these, out of these A, B, C, and D, which one has the priority? And so that's what the evaluate using determines. So, the typical, or I should say the default, is action closest to price. All right. So in other words, action closest to price, what that means is So if rule A, B, C, and D, if they're all valid and they're all wanting to execute, then what happens is BlackBird evaluates the action, and it'll find out, which one of these actions will move the order closest to price. And so the action furthest from price. So let's set up another example here. Okay, so there we go. So I've got different actions here, right? So if we move the order to the last price minus 2 ticks, right? Rule A, that's going to move our limit order closest to price. So remember, last is where the current market price is at. So if we're only 2 ticks away, that's going to be the closest to wherever the market price is, or the last price. And then rule D down here, that's going to be minus 5 ticks away. So this is going to be, rule D is going to be the furthest price away from where price is. So I guess, so think of this. So when you read these, when you read this label here, action closest to price, action furthest from price. So think of price as the last price, right? Price means like wherever the current market is. And wherever the market is, that's also the last price, right? So that's kind of the trouble with trading, right? You can have several words meaning the exact same terminology when it comes to trading here. So, this evaluate using, if we're going to use the action closest to price, right? In other words, action closest to the market price. I guess we can, we've got plenty of room here. Maybe I'll get Jeremy to update this so it says action closest to market price and action furthest from market price, just to add a little extra clarity to what this means. So if we're using action closest to price, then out of these 4 rules here, which rule is going to move our order closest to the market price? Well, that's going to be rule A, because it's going to be the last price minus 2 ticks. It's only 2 ticks away from the last price. And so if we use action furthest from price, that would be rule D, right? That's the last price minus 5 ticks. So that's 5 ticks away. So this is the furthest from the market price. So, so with evaluate using set to, furthest from price, if all 4 of these rules are allowed to execute, say if all their conditions are met so that all 4 can execute, then BlackBird will figure out which of these 4 rules is going to move the order furthest away from price. And that would be rule D in this kind of simple example. Alright guys, so I hope that makes sense for all you guys as far as what this evaluate using is for. And these bottom 2 here, hopefully they're pretty straightforward to simple, so the first action to trigger, so basically whichever trailing rule triggers first, then that one will always have priority as far as moving the order around. And then of course, the last the last trailing rule to trigger. Whichever trailing rule triggers last, that'll always have priority as far as moving the order. So, I guess just to kind of summarize, I've got 4 rules here, and eventually the initial delay is going to be met for all these rules. That means all 4 rules, they're all going to be wanting to move my order. So you have to figure out, which one of these 4 rules has priority to move that rule, and then this gives you 4 different options to choose that priority. So Tony's asking, so I should use BloodHound to tie together those third-party, then use the BloodHound signal inside of BlackBird to make it all work as entry and exit. Yes, exactly, Tony. Yep. So, BlackBird is definitely designed to work with BloodHound. So you can set up, BloodHound. So you can set up a entry signal template, right? Just like as in Raven, you have an entry signal template. Also, you have a exit signal template as well, so you can choose an exit signal as well if you so choose. Or BlackBird has a little more capabilities in that you could just to kind of load up some examples here. So let's say I want to use this this BloodHound template, 10.7, and that's my entry. And then if I wanted to, I could use another BloodHound template as my exit. So there's a little more flexibility with BlackBird versus Raven. So let me find an old. Yeah, there's an older BloodHound workshop. Let's see, what do I have in here? Let me find something a little better, hopefully. Yeah, okay. So you can see I've got a different BloodHound file loaded here, and I could use that one for just my exit signals only, if that's needed. You don't have to do it this way, but it's just more options that you have available to you. So I could use the ADX, VMA, and SuperTrend as my exit signal, like that. All right. So I have one BloodHound file that I'm using for my entry signals only, and then if I wanted to, I could use a different BloodHound file as my exit signals only, or I could also use that same BloodHound file for entry signals as well. So there's a lot that you can mix and match, and use as you see fit. Yeah, so there you go. So I hope that answers your question there, Tony. And so and also, depending on your third-party indicator, you may be able to tie it directly into BlackBird. So if your third-party indicator just gives a simple, let's see. See if I have something on here. Yeah, since this is a testing machine, I do have this from Indicator Warehouse. So I have this from Indicator Warehouse, and what I could do is I could use the buy entry point and sell entry point, as my buy signal and sell signal. I could do something like that. And then I'd have to set my set the short up to be greater than, longer, greater than, and that's just because of how this specific indicator works. That's how I have to set up my long interest signal and my short interest signal. They're both going to be greater than, so that might be possible. It all depends on how your third-party indicator works. What kind of data does it output? All right, so Tony's added some comments to his question. So his third-party indicator shows a green dot and a pink dot. Yeah, so green dot for a long trade and a pink dot for a short trade. Well, it depends on what that dot is, Tony. Depends on what the dot is. If it's this dot, if it's this dot, then these dots can't be read. If it's plotting one of these chart markers, right? So there's these chart markers here, dots. If it's plotting one of these, those can't be read. NinjaTrader doesn't provide a way to read these chart markers. But if it's a plot, let's say let's say their indicator has a plot that's set to the dot style. So if it's a dot that's a plot, then that can definitely be read by BloodHound or BlackBird. So it all depends on which dot we're talking about. NinjaTrader has two different dots. So one's a plot from an indicator and the other one's just a chart marker. So again, chart markers are not readable, but plots are. Yeah, so guys, if you have third-party indicators that are that aren't working with BloodHound or BlackBird, I would encourage you to talk to the author and ask them to make it compatible with our software. We've had several of our partners come to us because of their customers requesting that. Other companies do listen to their customers if enough people make that request. Just to kind of go back to let's see here. For example, I think Lizard Trader, Anna. I think Anna finally got enough customer questions about our software that he decided to set up his own website, and that's what they're doing. Let's see, who else? QuickPop. Yep, QuickPop had enough of his customers request, compatibility to work with BloodHound. So QuickPop finally approached us because of customer requests. Let's see, who else? Ninjacators. Yep, they had enough customers requesting, compatibility with BloodHound, and so they finally came to us to get some of their, I guess, more popular indicators compatible. So not all their stuff is compatible, but what they felt was beneficial for BloodHound owners, they made compatible. And let's see, who else? Let's see. Yeah, there was one or two others, but they didn't make it on the list here, unfortunately. And possibly Indicator Warehouse might make it on this list. And again, Indicator Warehouse, it was their customers requesting compatibility with BlackBird that they finally came to us. So, right back to your, the guys who you bought your third-party indicators from, write them back and just request it. And once they get enough, repeat requests from their customers, they do listen. Yeah, so RJ is asking, so if an indicator plots something on the chart, BloodHound can read it. Yeah, that's about, 98% true. 98% true. So there is a undocumented way to plot to a chart, in which case another indicator couldn't read it. So it is technically possible, but I don't think there's that many indicators out there actually doing that, but it is possible. So yeah, so I'd say 90% of the time that is true. So the other 2% of the time would be because somebody specifically, like for example, Roger Felton of Felton Trading, he specifically designs his indicators so they can't be read by other indicators. His concern is back engineering of his indicator. So he specifically, even though it's plotting stuff to the chart, it's still not readable by other indicators, and he specifically did that by design, just to try and thwart back engineering of his indicator. So there are some indicators out there that are not readable, even though they are plotting using a plot on the chart. So okay, well, with that, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. And let's see, one last question here from Frank. So Frank commenting that it looks like Ninja 8 is getting close to their final release. So technically they are in beta, technically. So they're on a candidate release right now, which is not a final release. It's a candidate release, as the name implies. So that's still a beta. So yeah, they are getting close, and at the same time, we're getting close to kind of putting in the final improvements to BlackBird. So once we kind of get in what we consider some core kind of features for BlackBird, once we get in all the remainder of those features into BlackBird, then our next main goal is to start converting everything over to Ninja 8. Alright, so as soon as we're done getting BlackBird updated, then we'll start converting everything over to Ninja 8. So, and there's no ETA on that. When it comes to software, there's no way to provide ETAs. Alright, writing software is a lot different than building a house. It's pretty easy to estimate how long it takes to build a house, because it's just the differences between software and building a physical product. So, but rest assured, we're going to try and get everything converted over as quickly as we can to Ninja 8. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys. You have a good rest of your week, and I hope to see you guys next Friday. So if you guys are going to be here for tomorrow's BloodHound workshop, again, I'm just going to open it up to your guys' questions. I'm going to try and keep that workshop short as well, so I don't stress my throat out here. I don't want to aggravate my cold any more than I have it. So, all right, guys, with that, have a good one, and hope to see you tomorrow, or have a great week otherwise. Bye-bye, guys.